It does, so you guys know what you're looking for in the morning. And it does record full video and full audio, so you're going to get this all back. So that's the cool thing about this. So obviously you guys can see me in there. Right? I'm orange, red, and yellow. So everything around me should be somewhat blue and black. And with that, that's the coldest areas because my skin is going to be the warmest thing out here. We want to try to keep somebody's skin temperature in there just because it kind of needs a baseline. So really what we're looking for here is something blue or black to start moving on its own. Sorry, it keeps vibrating because I just started it, so it's giving all the notifications and such. But we're looking for blue and black spots to move on their own because those are cold spots that should not be moving. So if they start moving, obviously we can analyze it, and I'll show you more evidence as we kind of go along throughout the night of really what we're looking for. This intro is really just kind of like, let's get some devices in your hand so you know what you're doing, and then we can kind of like, oh, this is really what it does. So who wants to take hold of this guy? She's like, yeah, I'll take that one. Sorry, she jumped on you on that one. It's okay. I got cool stuff galore. So, put hands free. Let me get that out for just a second, because you're going to be double fisted. So you're going to actually have two devices, so that way we can get as much data out there as possible.
Don't.
See?
Do not. Do not.
So, spirit boxes. Do we know what these are?
No.
Okay, so spirit boxes are pretty much a way for us to communicate with the dead. Okay, so it's basically going to sweep through all of the FM radio stations at a quick rate. I want the radio's song lyrics and all that little chattery stuff to actually come through. So whatever you hear out of it, I don't care if it's the radio or not, I want you to kind of tell me what it is. Even if you don't hear anything, because it is actually a hard job to have. It's okay. This one's recording the entire session for us, no outside noise, even when it's on mute. It's a nice even level. I don't know how it does it, but it's the reason why I bought it, is because this way you guys get the full audio back of the full recording. So I'm going to go ahead and set this up to start the recording and turn it up just so you guys can get a gist of what it sounds like. As soon as it wants to start up, there we go. Sweeping, recording. So you literally have only one button to worry about. It's a wheel at the very top of this. You're going to control the volume. There's going to be certain places where I say, let's just keep it audible to us because we might be near some horses or something along those lines. It's Charleston, there's ponies all over. But this way, you know, you're going to be able to control that volume. So let's see if actually anything comes through. Second base is what I heard there. It might not be relevant, but it's what I heard.
Yeah.
So tomorrow morning, I'll give you guys some audio markers of, like, here on the spirit box, this is what I heard. Here's 15 to 20 things. If it's relevant, I will always give you the reason why and a backlink to show you where I got the information from based on the history I'm going to tell you. So the other device you're going to have is a different kind of spirit box. So this one is an app on a phone, and it's going to give us a word from time to time in the center of the screen, just like that word 1,000. It's going to save all those words to a list. Last night's group, they had 70 terms. We're going to clear them out because they already have theirs. 80% of what comes up on this list is absolute bullshit. It doesn't mean anything. This thing's meant to be a game and a hoax. It's automatically going to spit out a word every few minutes anyway. The question is it relatable to the location or a person I'm talking about in history? And then the question is, who gave us that word? Is it the app or is it one of the spirits? This is a huge piece for us. So I'll show you a little bit more about this later, but literally how you get to the list is you just hit that little calendar to the right and it'll give you the full list. Because at times I might say, hey, where are we at on the list? But you don't have to do anything else besides wait for the words to pop up. So you're double fisted, and that's kind of how that rolls. Okay. So normally when I'm talking, just so you know, just so I'm not screaming over that thing, we keep it down because it's recording anyway. Yeah. So we're kind of cool with, you know, it being down, and that way you guys can hear all of the history that you need to hear. And I don't go into a big long history book. It's just enough so that you guys have enough info to be able to determine what's actually coming out of these spirit boxes and what you're seeing on your thermal imaging camera. I'm going to pull out one device that I'm going to keep on me. It does not record anything, but it is a nice gauge for us to be able to see if there's anything else actually happening. This guy is an actual millimeter. I'll go through what this guy does. I know, lots of sciencey stuff. So it's part of the gig. Part of what comes up with all of the evidence. So, first thing this thing's going to do is it's going to measure the temperature. You want to try to keep that flipped the same way, because that goes to YouTube, and then I flip it back to my website, so you guys have all your evidence in one spot. Okay. And YouTube doesn't like the flippies. I don't know if you've ever played with video on YouTube, but it does not like the flips. Alright, so first thing it's going to measure is ambient temperature. That bottom number is going to tell us how cold it is or how warm it is out here. It's measuring it through this yellow probe, so it's literally the air that's around this little blue wire. So in case you do see something, I can find where that cold spot is coming from. The top number is EMF. That's electromagnetic fields. That's that little blinky light that they use on the TV shows. So what that does is it measures 3 different types of electromagnetic fields. First one's natural. That's why it's not doing anything, because it's a natural balance. Second piece is going to be from electronic devices. It's going to make it go into a pattern or a rhythm. We don't want that either. We want this to kind of go erratic. I want these numbers to start skyrocketing and then dropping. And then skyrocketing to a different number and then dropping. That's really what I'm after. The last thing this thing does is it actually detects motion. So motion that's not caused by us. So I'm going to kind of point it down just so it's not flashing anybody, but there's an EMF field around this antenna. So if something gets close to it, it's going to make a noise. Notice I'm not touching it. It does not detect wind, it doesn't detect smoke, it doesn't detect anything else other than a break in that EMF field. So obviously my skin is going to break that field. So again, I don't use this all the time. I'll pull it out every once in a while because it gets really annoying on your audio to hear all of those buzzes all the time. So again, this will kind of stay in my pocket, and you'll see me, I'll even break off from you guys a little bit in certain areas where I say, I'm going to go test this out. You guys play with the spirit boxes and tell me what you see on the camera. Let's spend 5 minutes apart and kind of see what happens. No, I'm not Zach Bagans. I'm not going to make stuff up for you and send you into the scary spots only. It's literally so because nobody likes the teacher hanging around when you're trying to go through something with these spirit boxes. So it is literally so you guys get to explore the area a little bit. And again, I'm always going to be in sight. I'm not going to run around the block and say boo, kind of thing. I mean, this is it's a literal ghost hunt. So the way this is going to roll is, this place is obviously haunted. I'll tell you about this place just in case something is popping up on our spirit box that we don't know about. We'll go to kind of like a practice area. We'll go to a very historical place. We'll go to a historical alley with some cobblestones. And that's a brief stop just because it is a quiet area. They don't like a whole lot of people hanging around there. Then we do a little bit of legends and lore just because there is a lot of scary, crazy ghost stories, and I only tell the stories where I actually get evidence from. So if something pops up while I'm kind of giving you some of those stories, that's great, but I don't expect anything. And then we do one last final investigation on the oldest government building on the East Coast, which is the Powder Magazine. So I'll kind of go through those. I just kind of like to give everybody an agenda so they know what to expect. Ghost hunting isn't always sightseeing. So you guys have been up in Myrtle Beach, you've been seeing kind of like all the Wax Museum and all that stuff up there. I used to live in Myrtle Beach, so I kind of know what you guys have been going through. Charleston's a lot different, especially since you've never been here before. This place is it's old. It's a lot of history. That's why people come here. They come here for the architecture. They come here for the cobblestones, the smell of the horse shit. I don't know what it is, but that's why they come here. But I mean, that's literally when we walk through the town, you're going to be smelling horses and ponies and the old cobblestones. It's definitely not a Myrtle Beach type area, and that's part of the reason why I moved here instead of staying in Myrtle Beach. Not to mention there's an ex-wife up there. We don't want to be near her, so we don't want to go into that. Look at that. It went up all the way to 5.7. Anything above 2.5 on that big number I get excited about, just because that's usually kind of breaking the mold of anything that would be man-made objects, like cell phones or wiring, anything like that. So if it goes above 2.5, I'm usually a little excited. All right. Questions, comments so far? Is this what y'all thought you were getting yourself into?
I mean, yeah.
Okay, good. Good. Because a lot of people get on the store and they have no idea what they're expecting. Like, I'm handing stuff out and they're like, what's going on? I'm like, yeah, I told you, I'm putting you to work. That's why you're here. This building, I told you it was Kane Rumbar, but it used to, before that, it was called Big John's. Big John was a football player for the 1947 New York Giants. So with that said, he used to sit in the back of the bar. It was his bar, he owned it. But he would tell the bartender if the cadets that were coming over from the Citadel, if they were old enough to be able to drink or not. One night, 2 guys come in, they're not old enough to drink. John tells the bartender, get him out of here. So they leave. They're pretty pissed off. So they come back the next night and they try to steal the cash register from the front of the bar. John sees what's happening, little bar brawl, a couple of shots go off. John gets hit in the neck, the bullet ricochets and lands in the wall. He gets up, goes back to the bar and says, get me another beer and go get them 2 guys an ambulance. Now, first off, nobody died in that story. So what's haunting the place?
Right.
Guesses?
I don't know what.
It's the bullet hole. It's allegedly still here. It's got John's blood on it. So people that sit in the front of the bar, now I say allegedly because they are renovating it right now, obviously with all the paper on the windows, so I'll have to double check it when they reopen the bar. Obviously it's not even Kane Rumbar anymore. He booked town and went to Florida as soon as the pandemic hit. But anyway, so people that sit in the front of this bar, they get a little queasy, nauseous, headache, that kind of thing. I bring this up on purpose because I don't know how paranormal activity is going to affect you. Now, we're not in crazy moon phases right now, so I don't really expect anything, but if either one of you, I hate to say any because it's just the both of you, either one of you feel any of those kind of symptoms, I kind of need to know immediately. Slightest headache, we got to move on. So we're not going to be playing around with that just because I've had people pass out before. I've had psychics come on this tour and just no, they can't do it.
What's the craziest like thing that ever happened to you on tour?
On a tour? A psychic passing out and not telling me she was a psychic.
Oh, really?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, like dropped like a wet noodle. Like we hit one of the sites that's pretty active for me, and that's the Pinckney Mansion site. We'll be there shortly. But I mean, she dropped like a wet noodle as soon as we walked in.
Oh, well.
Just too much. She couldn't handle it. So, let's talk about something else other than our health, right? So, we had a big earthquake here in 1886. It's weird because this is the East Coast. We don't have earthquakes, right?
Yeah.
This is also allegedly where the first death occurred from that earthquake. And I'm going to bring up that earthquake several times tonight. A piece of the mantle that you guys see like in the middle of the building right there, it also goes around the front of the building. And a piece of that apparently broke off, struck somebody in the back of the head, and killed him. And they say you could see his ghost in, obviously, witching hour between 2 and 3 o'clock. So take that for what it's worth. I don't have any proof, nor is there any kind of factual evidence that this is where that first death occurred. It's just a great story, so you're not thinking about getting sick on my tour. So, you guys ready to go ghost hunting?
Yeah.
All right, let's do this. We're going to go this way. And just for reference, so this is not a circular tour, so we don't end here. So we are going to end on Cumberland Street, and my garage is on Cumberland Street, so we'll have to part ways. And the way you'll come back, you see where that building is straight ahead with the lights in the window? You're going to end up coming down that street and making a right on Pinckney Street. You're going to remember that because we're going to talk about the Pinckneys more. But I'm going to give you directions again, but it's very simple to get back to your car. Just remember that Pinckney Street leads to East Bay, and that's where your car's at. So just wanted to point that out. So, you're going to find that I like parking lots. First off, I'm not going to take you to places that are just random spots and hopefully you find a ghost. Taking you to places that once were, right, because they used to be something, or they have some kind of significant history where I usually get activity from. So this is a place that's kind of in between those. This is a great practice area to be using devices that you've never used before. You're getting some words on there, Amanda. What are you getting?
Add.
Just add? Anything else?
It was add, felt, took, questions, and lightning.
Okay. So nothing of relevance so far. Yep. Yeah, you never want to hit any of those other buttons, just that circle back.
Okay.
So this is what I call the red barn lot. Okay, the horses for our carriage rides, they are inside this barn. They can hear us. Nobody here has lasers tonight because it's a smaller group, so I don't have to worry about the lasers. But if we're going to use those spirit boxes near those windows up there, we want to try to just keep it quiet to ourselves. We don't want to spook the horses. They will kick the metal walls. It's never fun. So what's the history of this particular building? There's not much. This is the same red barn that we had horses that used to deliver milk and eggs to Charleston. Okay, so whenever I'm telling you a history of a building, 1947 New York Giants, I'm always going to say key words, and I'll emphasize those key words. Here, it's obviously delivery, milk and eggs, right? Charleston's going to show up on the radio often. We're going to disregard anything that comes up like that. But let's talk about those spirit boxes, because I'm sure you're going to be involved with this too. This is not TV. This is not Zach Bagan saying, is somebody here? Like, because if somebody answers no, first off, that means somebody's here. But in case a real estate commercial comes up and they say, buy your next house, we think we heard the word yes, just because of that ending sound of house. We're going to stay away from yes and no questions all night long. This just makes things a whole lot easier. I want the details. I want the very specific things. We don't want vague proof here. So really what we're after is, what color is the barn? We know that it's red. So we can listen for the color red, or we can listen for something that's specifically red. Blood, heart, fire truck. These are all examples I give every night. So with that said, if somebody's here, tell me what color the barn is, and you hear fire truck on the radio, that's a relevant answer. So that's something very specific. They just couldn't find the word red out of a radio DJ, or had enough energy to come through as a disembodied voice. So again, it's a matter of like, how do we ask these questions? And how often do we ask them? You want to go into it multiple times. Give it about 20 to 30 seconds in between each time, But you want to ask the same question. Who's here with us? Tell me what color the barn is. If you can't tell me what color the barn is, tell me what's inside the barn. That's when you start opening things up. We know that they're animals, horses. Their breed is draft horses. And they also delivered milk and eggs to Charleston. Now, milk and eggs could come up as protein and calcium. Happens all the time. I've seen it more than once. So it's just a matter of what word can they find to be able to tell us what's inside the barn. Anything related to a horse is going to work, right? Hay, saddle, cowboy, like anything relating to a horse, because we're dumb Americans, and that's what we think of when we think of a horse, is a cowboy. So this is just, again, we don't spend a lot of time here. It's just so you guys get used to listening to that spirit box, and you know what you're kind of looking for with the thermal imaging camera. Again, you are seeing, you're seeing all kinds of colors already, which is good. You want to keep, again, try to keep a person in view. I know it's going to be difficult with, just 3 of us here, but we're going to be into a little bit more of a popular area later on. It'll be a lot easier to do. But why you want to do that is because you want that array of color. If you were to put that right on that metal building right there, it's going to bleed out to one color. Yeah. Until you put somebody's hand in there. And then everything's going to, well, it's actually kind of staying blue. Well, that's because your hand is kind of in that way. Nope, other hand. The camera's on your left side. Okay. So see how it bleeds out red? Now watch what happens when you get a different, the wall goes to blue. See how that kind of changes color up on you? So again, you want to try to keep some kind of skin tone in there at all times. That way, again, don't put it up in somebody's face because you have to keep somebody in there. But it's a definite, let's try to keep somebody in that mess. You getting another word there?
Practical.
Practical. Interesting. So we are in between Big John's bar and this red barn. Oftentimes I'll get jersey numbers and the name. I don't get excited with one piece of evidence. That's why I bring out the little doodad that I have, because if there's EMF and a digit number, I'm excited. If it's a digit number and a name shows up, I'm really excited because now I can verify that proof. I'm always going to try to verify something. I'm not going to make stuff up. I will always try to debunk things first. So let's go ahead and turn your spirit box up a little bit. And I do want you guys to kind of just circle the lot like one time, get used to the way your temperatures move, and go ahead and ask a few questions. And I'm going to try to see what's going on with the millimeter. But again, stay within the lot. Just do one lap just to get used to listening to it, and let's see what happens out of that.
What questions you want to ask? What color's the barn? What color is our hoodies? I forgot he said he's busy. Where are we at right now? You put your phone on wrapper?
Yeah, Trevor. Okay. Definite name, obviously, so I'll have to dive into that to see. I don't know that there is a Trevor on Big John's teammates. But did you hear anything out of that guy? Okay. Alright, so again, it's not the easiest job in the world. That's why I gave you both, so that way you can kind of, figure out what's going on. And you can use them in conjunction with one another. Because sometimes, you gotta remember, I go up to groups of 10. So each person would have one of those devices. You're serving as 2 people tonight. So if you ask a question, the answer can literally go to anything. It can go to my audio, your audio, or either one of your spirit boxes. And this just went up to 8 for a split second, which is pretty high. So let's go learn some real history, and let's go see what we can actually capture. Now that at least you have the gist of what's actually happening with that thing. The word harvest on there too, that's interesting. You've never set foot in Charleston before?
No.
I'm the first person to take you around.
Yes.
Okay. Most people get a gist of the city. That's where they come visit me. Because I'm the guy that shows you all the weird stuff about Charleston.
Yeah, they like weird stuff.
Yeah.
Right, so again, I told you I love parking lots. So, what is this place? This used to be the Charles and Eliza Pinckney Mansion lot. So this is, if I were to have a grand finale, this would be it. I am going to give you a little bit of the history here just so you guys know what you're listening for and what you're watching for. But Eliza and Charles had a son named Charles, and they had a nephew named Charles. So there's 3 Charles: husband, son, nephew. The son and the nephew, signers of our Constitution for South Carolina. It's a pretty big deal for us here. But I don't like politics, and you guys don't look like you like politics either. So we're going to move on to Eliza. She's way cooler anyway. So Eliza Pinckney married Charles at a young age. By the way, we're not going to go over questions like what we did over there with what color's George Washington's white horse. You're not going to know the answers. So again, it's going to be about getting the answers from the spirit boxes and hopefully some different activity from you and I. So Eliza married Charles at a young age. You can ask that question once we separate. You can ask how old Charles was as well, because there's a big age gap. Now, she married Charles because her father thought he was dying over in England. She didn't want to go home. He thought he just wanted all his kids home so he could see them one last time. Instead, she got married and stayed put. Now, it didn't give her any kind of citizenship because there was no such thing yet. This was the mid-1740s. So again, we were established 1776. There was no citizenship. So it just said, hey, Dad, I don't want to go anywhere. I'm going to get married and stay here. He's like, whatever. So he got better, which means Eliza was right. And then he starts sending over gifts to Eliza because he's rich and over in England. One of those gifts happened to be indigo. So if you don't know anything about indigo, you guys aren't from here, so I'll give you the gist of it. You guys are wearing sweatpants, can't even prove that. It's a blue. It makes a blue dye that makes our blue jeans blue. That's how we still use it today. So it's a pretty big deal because the experimentation for it to make it a huge profit started right where we're standing. Now the layout of the land, just to kind of give you the gist, is the mansion was in the front. Eliza's garden was right here in the middle, kind of lined up with that tree over there and coming all the way across. And we're standing where the servant quarters would have been. So she had to learn from her slaves and her servants how to keep this indigo cultivated. Now, our slaves and servants that came over through the customs house that we're about to pass, most of them came straight from Africa, which means they knew how to cultivate in odd temperatures. Sometimes Africa isn't as hot as we always think it to be. So, with that said, these are our Gullah culture folks, and a lot of them still here if you go a little bit further south, Beaufort area. So, with that said, she learned from these folks to keep it cultivated, then calls Dad and says, hey, this is working. How do we get this to be sold? So he starts sending all these contacts over on how to sell it to France, Italy, Russia, all of these big countries over there. Huge for us because the rice plantations were going downhill. We needed another cash crop to take over and save the colonies. So it was a pretty big deal for Eliza. She's a businesswoman in the 1700s. No such thing as a businesswoman in the 1700s. So again, pretty big deal for us here. Not to mention, nobody else comes to this damn lot unless they're going to park their damn car. So they don't even know what the hell they're parking on. That's the sad thing. They've never done an archaeological dig here, so there's no reason for my device to go off, and it will. I can almost guarantee that. That's one thing. Like, I've only had 4 nights out of the 2 years I've been doing this tour with folks that I haven't had anything come out of here. So this is a really cool place. But there's a lot of weird facts you can ask Eliza. Ages, like I told you, how old she got married, and Charles. You can ask anything you want to about her death. How old she was, what did she die from, where is she buried, where did she die, and what U.S. president was a pallbearer at her funeral. So if that doesn't tell you how important this lady was to our founding of our country, pretty big deal. I'm trying to think what else. Don't poke around with the kids too much. There's a tragedy in there, and if you poke too hard, all activity stops. And it's not just here, it's throughout the rest of the night. I've seen it dozens of times, because somebody gets curious. You can ask how many kids there were, how many boys, how many girls, and leave it alone. If she wants to talk more, she'll talk more. I've gotten disembodied voices out of here before. I have shadows that are unexplainable from the thermal imaging camera in here. I have a reverse spirit box that I've gotten activity from before, which that's only disembodied. Nice. That's pretty strong. We'll take it. especially if some other things start popping up around her. Now, last night we were asking the wrong person questions. All of the evidence I did get out of this place last night was relevant to Charles. So it's kind of like, all right, dude, I get it. You were hanging out. We were ignoring you. So I didn't see it till the next morning, but it was definitely there. It was only like, I think 2 or 3 pieces, but it was still enough to say, okay, all of those lead back to Charles. None of them were Eliza. You can ask what happened to the mansion. It's obviously not here anymore. Here's what I will tell you. I'm losing your name already.
Jelena.
Jelena. Well, I can't remember. My sister's name is Gina. You think it'd be easy for me? But anyway, so people get a little funny about cameras in their cars. In the event somebody starts walking through, think about how you would feel if somebody was filming your car. It's the same principle. They love to scream and yell at me because I'm the guy with the bag and I'm the one who directs you to do it. They have no idea what type of camera that is. However, I will say that if I was a car thief, that would be my first tool. I'm sure you've already noticed that certain cars there's different temperatures because they've been sitting there longer. So it just depends. But when it's been sitting there the longest, that's the one I'm going after because I never know when that person's coming back. So I get their thoughts and feelings, but they don't know what I'm looking at. Most people understand that we're ghost hunting. They see the devices and like, oh snap, we're freaking ghost hunting. So this, one last thing before I set you guys free. Eliza was the second, who's that, Emma? That's not relevant. Eliza was the second wife named Eliza from Charles. So both Elizas go by their maiden name. And they both start with L. That's the only thing I'm going to tell you. So it's Eliza blank Pinkman. It's not her middle name, it's her maiden name. The name she had before she was married. So again, kind of keep that in mind too. So that usually pops up from time to time too. So again, I'm going to set you guys free. We're going to spend a good 5-10 minutes here. Ask all those questions, whatever you remember between the two of you. See what pops up. Again, ask them repeatedly. And I'm going to try to find us a good hotspot with the millimeter and kind of see what's actually going on there. Okay? It's so hesitant. It's hysterical.
Where do we go? What questions you want to ask? What happened to the mansion? How old were you when you died? How many kids did you have? Who was older, her or Charles? How much older was Charles? How old was you?
Be very close. He's on the left-hand side of the steps. We had that problem over the wintertime. Looks like he's back. So just be mindful. Okay. He doesn't like loud noises either. You can probably turn that up a little bit just so you can actually.
What you getting pulling up? What you got pulling up? Nothing.
I also like to just set this down so it's not like my movement that's making it go wild.
I said, what U.S. president was the pallbearer at her funeral? Whenever you would ask how old Charles was or whatever, said 21, but I don't know if that's right or not.
Where you see that? Where it come up at?
Just I just heard it.
Now, how old were you when you got married to Charles?
Charles, how old was you whenever you got married though?
Eliza.
Eliza.
Hmm. He said no answer. What question did you ask? What question did you ask?
The last question I asked is how old he was. Most don't like talking to me.
That's another question. But who do you think it would be, though?
Weird spikes all over. You guys hear it or see anything?
Yeah, I'd asked a question and said no answer.
It said no answer?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd
And
asked him
then,
how old he was when he married
It just went up to 20.
And Charles is here with us.
Charles, if you're here, come near the box with the red light. Make this little antenna go off, just like that. Heard every day.
Mean he's here every day?
A possibility, but
Probably.
I keep on hearing like a faint voice in the background. Sounds like a woman's
like through here, just audible.
voice.
Again, it's not like I've never had disembodied voices come through there before.
Banking. No.
Politician. That number's not relevant to anything.
I got 21.
You guys have 21?
Whatever she'd ask, what would you ask? How old she was and
Yeah.
Warn you guys about the homeless guy up there.
Yeah.
Curious to see what else comes up. This thing is like at around a steady 1.0. You have a little like time of time up in here. So imagine I'm doing investigations by myself and I got all this gear. Half that stuff's in cargo pockets. It just runs and I just go visit places that have never been being haunted or, you know, somebody wants me to check them out. Run for office. That would make sense to Charles. He was a politician. He's not telling us what political party.
I just wonder what gate.
Well, there would have only been one. That one. That one wasn't the original. Like, this is not the original wall. This actually belonged to a restaurant. But that still would have been where the front gate was to the house. Did you get an answer? I heard you ask about what happened to the mansion. Nothing. Yeah, it's a pretty vague term. Again, most of that stuff's going to be really vague, so unless it's very specific. There it goes. That's 6.
What did happen to the mansion? You know?
Yeah, it actually caught fire in 1861. Arrests. I'm going to give you the answers before we leave. I'm not going to leave you all hanging. I just want to see if anything else is going to come up around that gate.
Somebody get arrested?
Celebrating. Oh, you have the word alarm.
Now I want to know about the gate.
Right. You seen anything?
No.
Say something about that guy. That would prove, like if it says mail, homeless, blanket, there's that blanket. Yeah, that would be something more relevant to what's actually happening right now, showing us she can see us. That's what I'm waiting for. Alarm, I mean, we're talking about a woman from the 1700s. Alarm by the gate would make sense. The alarm by the gate.
Yeah.
But it's still a little too vague. I want something more specific. Elijah, tell us what's going on by the gate.
Or Charles tell us about the gate.
There you go.
What's happening at the gate? Or what happened at the gate? It says separate. I mean, all three of us separate or just... Well, ask a question about us separating.
We did get the word pillow. It came up on the list. So that's kind of an answer of what's by the gate or what's going on by the gate.
Dance.
That's not me. Eliza or Charles, do that again. Get a little bit closer, make those lights go brighter. Furniture. Eliza or Charles, get closer to that little metal stick there. Notice too, I don't use terms like what I told you, like this is a millimeter. I'll never say, get close to the millimeter. I'll always say the black box with the metal stick. Now I got nothing. That was a little nutty. Starting to go back up again. Eliza or Charles, get close to that metal stick, just like you just did.
When calibration comes up, what is that?
It's basically reading the temperature that's in your screen because you're moving.
Okay.
So it's going to pause for a split second and make sure it's reading the temperatures properly.
Okay.
Alright, you guys want some answers? So before we move on to the next stop. I do like the word pillow. I'm excited about that, but this is giving me all the way back down to 0 again. So
Turn this down.
yeah, go ahead and turn that piece down. So I told you that the place burned down in 1861. That was a great fire. So are you guys doing anything else in Charleston? Any other tours or anything? We've literally had dozens of fires. So the reason why I ask if you're going to do anything else is because every tour has a great fire that they talk about. This one just happens to be the one of 1861. A great fire for us means that it took out a large chunk of our land. So she had, again, pretty big. This particular fire went from Peninsula Coast to Peninsula Coast. The house just happened to be in the way. The only photographs we have of the mansion was after the fire. So Eliza Lucas Pinckney was the one that planted the indigo. The first wife, her maiden name was Lamb. So Lamb and Lucas were the names that we were looking for there. As far as what happened to Eliza, she died at the age of 70. So for 1700s, that's a long damn time. And she died from breast cancer. So there's no such thing as breast cancer yet, or one based off of her medical records. So that was in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. So that's where she died. So if that tells you why we don't actually visit cemeteries, because you're probably not going to hang out by your grave after you're gone. You go to places that you love. That's what we're doing here. I'm trying to think what else. Oh, the pallbearer was George Washington.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So that was a pretty big deal. So we get a lot of terms wrapped around Washington. Apples, Martha, wood, because he had wooden teeth. So we do get a lot of terms around George, so I listen for a lot of that. Speaking of George's, Eliza's father was also named George, and her infant son that died was also named George after her father. So normally if the name George pops up, I need another clue to tell me which one. Same way with the Charles. There's 3 of them, 3 Georges. So I need that extra clue to kind of tell me what the hell, who am I talking to here? But that's kind of the extra clues I get. Martha, wood, apples. I think I've ever had Virginia or Vermont or whatever come up, but those are the kinds of terms. The only way out of here is right there, so we're going to move back. Eliza, you guys were close with the age on their marriage date. She was 22, not 21. So she was 22, he was 45. So he was doubled over her age. Their marriage, and I meant to look this up this morning, it didn't last long because, Charles died pretty early in their marriage and left her with 4 kids. So Charles, Thomas, George, and 1 daughter, Harriet. So 3 sons, 1 daughter. A lot of things come up about writing too, because her daughter married in Horry. You guys were just in Myrtle Beach. That's Horry County. So she married into another prominent family, and they used to write letters back and forth because in the 1700s that probably would have been a day to do it, a day and a half ride from here to there. So they wrote a lot of letters back and forth. Again, very vague terms. I am excited about Pillow and Gate coming up. So. So a lot of times, like what I'll do is I'll look at the list as a whole. That's why I'll keep asking you to bring it up. So that way, like I'm seeing tiny dams. I don't know what that means, but I see that as a phrase.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I'm looking at that. We did get the word cotton, but unfortunately, to my knowledge, the pink ink did nothing with cotton.
Tiny dance. Her daughter maybe danced when she was small.
I don't know, maybe. It's a possibility. But again, I always go after stuff I can prove.
Yeah.
So that's why I go after numbers, dates, things that are very specific that are in the history books, so that way I can give you guys the backlinks. I'm trying to think, what else did we have you guys ask? I think that about covers it. Did you guys ask any other questions?
I asked about something about her kids.
Yeah.
That was
Okay. Well, at least you now know what the 4 names are. You have that on audio, so in case something pops up that we missed in real time, or right now while it's on mute, it's not a big deal. I'll be able to catch it in the morning. And again, I want you to keep in mind, I don't go through all this data. So you're going to be recording at least 90 minutes worth of stuff. You're recording 90 minutes, 90 minutes. Like, there's at least 4.5 hours right there, minimum. So if we're out a little bit past that, it's going to be more than that, obviously. I only go through this for like 2 hours, and that's going through the hot spots only. The rest of it's up to you guys. So that way you guys can have some fun with this too. I just give you all the links so you can look shit up.
Okay.
So we're actually going to stay away from that gate, and we're going to go this way and around, so that way we're not disturbing our friend up there. And we're going to go up about 4 blocks to Lodge Alley. So you guys are going to get to kind of see some of the heart of the city, at least from the East Bay standpoint. Are you guys staying here tonight, or are you driving all the way back to Myrtle Beach?
We're out there.
I got to drive to Myrtle Beach on Saturday and back, and I'm not looking forward to that. But
I mean, honestly, the drive here was 2 hours.
Yeah.
Seemed longer than the drive from Tennessee, which was like, what, about 10 and a half, 11?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it's boring. It's a boring drive. My daughter lives in Myrtle Beach, so she's got to play this Saturday. So
You said catch. You got that?
catch a call. My wife does all the photography work and logo work for me, for obviously everything we're doing here. And we're creating cards, so like all the questions I told you guys about back there, we're gonna have like a little photo book with little like book lights on them, so that way I don't have to spew them off to you. I can say, all right, everybody with a spirit box, go to it. And you guys will have like your questions already typed out for you, so that way, A, you don't forget any.
Okay.
But like I'm gonna be taking some pictures of Lodge Alley for that photo there. So just so you know, one of the things I'm listening for on the spirit box during this time frame tomorrow morning is I'm listening for names. The alley we're about to go to, people used to live there. So I'll explain more once we get there, but I usually tell people, like if you're gonna, especially if I got my full group of 10, if you're gonna listen to your spirit boxes along the way, then you can listen for names. I'm just not gonna tell you male or female and which specific names, just names in general. So you guys should have been here on a weekend when this is actually open. So it's an open air market. Obviously, there's a lot of artisans.
Really? She said she had discovered. You are a half hour away.
Customs house I was telling you about, where basically 80% of African Americans in the United States have an ancestor that came to their doors.
Oh, really?
about it.
It really is.
I mean, 80% of Black Americans now have an ancestor that came through. That's crazy to me. Sorry, I was trying to get us away from that. It's pretty negative. I don't want their vibes on me. Weird. Like, some places are closed tonight. I don't know why. Hurry, we can make it. I was hoping that guys were going to fill us all the way up here. Complaining because I gotta go to Charlotte. Oh no. You ever been through Charlotte? Have you ever been through Charlotte, North Carolina? How you doing? That finds a new corner every night.
Every night.
Well, we got a couple regulars that you see on a nightly basis. This is where we're going to turn. So, what do you watch your steps? You guys want to turn your shoes?
Yes.
Good. All right. Damn it. Maybe I can get.
Cool.
Like garbage in the way of the last one. The wife will say, what were you thinking?
Yeah, I'm glad we got on tennis shoes.
Get a little rough on the feet. I'm looking for a lot of shoes over here. So kind of just stop here so you guys know where you're at. It is considered a quiet area, so we're going to keep the spirit box down. It's recording, so we're good. Just so you guys kind of have a gist of what this place is and what we actually just passed through. So that last crosswalk coming down East Bay Street, that was where the original Charlestown Wall was. Charlestown was a walled city. It was a pretty big deal for us. It was protected that way. So this would have been one of the first streets we ever had, ever. So these cobblestone bricks, they're obviously made out of clay, hand-laid, handmade. Like, they're very uneven. They were probably this way back then, too,
Yeah.
I'm sure. But people used to live here. These two big buildings weren't here. Little tiny shotgun houses. I have the full list of names of everybody that's ever lived here. So I usually get the name Benjamin or John, and sometimes both of them together. They both lived here in 1801. Why is that significant? Very common names, because there was only 5 people that lived here. If I have 2 out of the 5 that show up on a spirit box somehow, I kind of don't call that coincidence, especially since it happens, I'd say about once a month, once every other month or so. That's pretty common. It happens quite often. So that's a common occurrence. The Masons also used to meet here. This is the reason why this is called Lodge Alley, is because the first Masonic Lodge was here.
Oh, really?
Yep. So Freemasons were here, and this is Lodge Alley Inn. Every hotel down here has a, telling of some type of ghost. They don't give me free rooms to.
Supposed to say boo?
You could try. They don't give me free rooms to verify them, so I'll start that next year. All my investigations, in case you listen to podcasts, they're all on a podcast. It's the same name, Stories in a Cemetery. But next year, the wife and I are going to start with going to all these hotels down here and seeing if what they're claiming is actually true. So, but again, this is a brief stop. You guys are in Charleston, you needed to see some cobblestone. So, You're going to go to the right of this car. I don't even know why it's here. Guides are not allowed to be tour guides in neighborhoods, so we're just kind of passing through until we get to our next stop. But this is where I normally say we keep our spirit boxes down, and we're just going to be three friends trucking through, kind of thing. Are you guys doing anything else down here tonight, or was you guys drove all the way down here to meet me and go back? Really?
Yeah.
I'm honored. That's kind of crazy. I won't lie. It is
We were looking at I think ghost tours at first, and I was just saving some. And then yours had popped up, and I was like, why not?
Well, here's what I'll tell you. Nobody in the country does what I do. Like, as far as the extent of how many tools I have in the bag, and what I give back to you guys the next day, like, nobody does that. Because people say, oh, I've done a ghost hunting tour in Savannah. I'm like, oh yeah, what's the name of it? And they'll give me the name, and I'll go home and look it up. I'm like, they didn't even come close to what I do. So, engineer. I don't think there were any engineers that lived in Lodge Alley, but I'll have to look at the list, because the list also gives their occupation. It's not a census list, it's just like their name, their address, and where they were in Lodge Alley, and then it has their occupation. So take note of this particular alley. I can't take you down there because it's definitely a no tourist zone, but I would definitely tell you the ghost story that happens there, because we do still get evidence around the corner from this place. It's the most gorgeous place we have, by the way. Like, day or night, that's the best place for pictures.
Yeah, looks nice.
Yeah, it's gorgeous down there. Random groups out there. I don't see like ghost tour groups.
Are they? Or just random people?
Just random people walking around.
But it's usually just not normal.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's usually, a couple of people walking around, but normally
It's kind of busy.
This is a very touristy type area.
Yeah.
So all of your ghost tours all come up here, because this corner is just littered with ghost stories, like just covered with it. The cool thing about what we're doing is that I'm literally only giving you places and stories that actually give us evidence, because I can prove that they actually happened. They're telling you a lot of like the extra legends and the extra lore of stuff they can't actually prove. So, not that there's anything wrong with that, because any ghost story is fun, right? But I like the stuff you can actually prove and dive into. So we actually stopped here by this tree, because I like to point out a few things about that alley. So that wall back there is actually that alley that we just walked past.
Okay.
So do you guys see the doorway in the middle of the wall?
Yeah.
Okay, so that doorway is because that alley used to be Dueller's Alley. So all of the duels for Charleston would occur there. So in the event there was a loser, the loser would come through that doorway, over this courtyard, and over to the cemetery, where they would drop the body and then go celebrate the winner. So we all tell the same story of the same duel that occurred, and I get a lot of evidence from it. What do you got so far? You still engineer?
Yeah.
So I'm definitely going to dive onto that engineer piece. So there was a doctor that moved down here from Rhode Island. His name was Joseph Brown Ladd. His name has shown up in full before for me. In different pieces, of course, but it was still full. He moved down here because he was supposed to get married to his fiancée, Amanda. So Amanda just inherited a bunch of money from her dead parents. Now, if this story is somewhat familiar to you all, I'm going to be a little scared myself. So she just inherited all this money, and the attorney that was handling the money told her, send the doctor away. I think he's just after your money. You're not getting married yet. So the doctor moves to Charleston. the coachman that brought him into town set him up to be robbed and killed, which wasn't a very good start, but somebody walking by, seeing what was going on, his name was Ralph Isaacs. Ironically, he had the same initials from where the doctor came from, Rhode Island, Ralph Isaacs. So he says, you don't want to stay here, let me take you somewhere safe. He takes him to 59 Church Street. We're on Church Street right now, just so you know. But he took him, it's about a mile down the road. And he's got him a safe place to stay. The two become friends. The doctor's practice starts to take off. So he's a doctor, so he's making lots of money. His fiance's going to be moving down soon. All is going well. Him and Ralph used to go see plays together, but they couldn't sit next to each other at these plays because the doctor made so much more money than him. That's just the hierarchy of Charleston, right? So what happened was they had to talk about these plays on the way home. They were still friends, still walking home together. They started arguing about one of the actresses that was in town one night. They went to go see William III from Shakespeare. The doctor loved the new actress, Ralph didn't. They start arguing. Next thing you know, he starts insulting Amanda back home, right? So that obviously pisses the doctor off. They go their separate ways. Ralph is from here. He has ties to the newspaper. Calls up his friends, says, I'm going to put an ad in the paper. We're going to tell the city what a disgrace the doctor is.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, oh snap, right? So he's really stirring the pot up. So he puts this ad in the paper. The doctor sees it. He rebuttals with, let's go to Door's Alley and let's settle this. Which means somebody's allegedly going to die. So they come down here. They take the 20 cases. The doctor points his gun in the air and he shoots. He did not want to kill his friend. He just wanted to make a point. Ralph still had one shot. Puts it in the kneecap of the doctor. So the doctor didn't come through the death gate that I just pointed out. His friends pick him up and they carry him home. He dies 10 days later, probably from bleeding out, because that's the only way they know how to heal a gun wound back then. They say as you walk through that alley, you can hear the doctor's whistles and or gunshots as you go through there. Now, this is where my audio piece would have come in handy when I used to give the tour down there before, because everybody's spirit box is off. We're going to front. You can definitely, you want to listen to the audio, listen for those faint whistles. But I do get a lot of things on the spirit boxes. Doctor, Joseph, medicine, Amanda, all these terms come up. Kneecap has shown up before. Whistles have come up before. Through the radio stations, like random whistles. Like, how do you explain that as I'm telling the damn story? So I don't find these pieces ironic, or coincidental, like I normally don't. Unless, of course it is literally coincidental. But again, that's a very unique alley for us. It's called Philadelphia Alley now because they named it after one of our cities that saved us from one of our many, many fires that I told you about before. And it's easy to remember, but you guys are leaving anyway. I would say go ahead and take a walk through there. I just can't take you down there because I'm a tour guide. But you're more than welcome to walk through there. The other interesting piece that's down there, and this is just a piece of history for us, is that those bricks that you guys saw, they get older as you get all the way down towards the end by Queen Street. Those bricks, as they get older, those are the original bricks, which means they were sun-dried by slave kids. Those poor kids had to turn those bricks every hour to make sure that they got baked. They weren't put in an oven. They were sun-dried, literally. We still have fingerprints and one full handprint down there of a slave child. You could see it. And it's right outside the mansion of the guy that I pissed off, of the reason why I'm not allowed to go down there anymore. So, because my groups always like to stop and take a picture, and they want to see the history.
Yeah.
And the guy that used to live there claimed that those were false, but they're in 3 different areas of Charleston. They're in random spots, but you can point, if you actually Google handprint Charleston, you get the newspaper article that shows you where they're all at. It's a very interesting thing to see. So again, it's just one of those to put your mind there. If you have to turn these damn bricks, and we actually have proof of it. But that's a very interesting alley. So most ghost tours will take you right up to the church and the cemetery right there because of one little story that they drag out for 10 minutes. There's a sign right inside the gate that says there's no ghost here but the Holy Ghost, and that's inside the cemetery.
Fire.
Oh. We just talked about Philadelphia. I'll take it. Interesting. So we'll see what else pops up around that. So again, I don't get excited with one thing, and of course I don't have my tool out either. But the reason for that sign, there's no ghost here but the Holy Ghost, is because in 1888, a young lady died. Her name was Sue Howard Hardy, 6 days after her stillborn child. So the baby's born dead, and she dies from heartbreak. 1987, we have a local photographer. He's taking pictures of all of our cemeteries. He's going to be putting together a book. So he captures a full apparition of a woman wearing a shawl and a baby basket next to her. Now, it's 1987. I don't know how old you guys are, but we didn't have much technology then.
Yeah, no.
We really did. So no cell phones, no craziness. You can't debunk it with computers and all that mess. He has to send it to Kodak to be able to figure out what the hell's going on in this picture. So Kodak sends it back and says, we have no idea what's happening in this picture. So for guys like me, it's like gold, right? Because the picture is pretty prominent. However, it's cursed. Females that hold the picture or are handling it, even on my phone, restore. It's telling me to tell the Dock Street Theater. Sometimes I'll wait to see what the spirit boxes are telling us to see, because there's, again, a million stories right here. So it's telling me about the restoration, so it means I got to tell you about Dock Street Theater, which is fine. It's a great story too, but hopefully we get something out of it. But anyway, that young lady, the picture's cursed. So if you guys were to handle it, you're going to get the same symptoms like I told you about at Big John's. I don't want that to happen. I'm not going to hand that out. Pregnant females that are holding this picture, not going to have a good pregnancy. Obviously, because of the situation, baby is still born. So I don't show the picture on purpose. If you want to look it up, or we get something that shows up from the spirit boxes that's related to that story, I always put a heated warning on that link before you click it. So that way you're not like, oh my god, shit, it's the cursed picture. I always give you a warning. So restoration, why is that one important? So first off, you should know, do you guys see the burning gas lamp off in the distance? It's kind of like wavering a little bit, looks orange. So that house is actually called the Pirate House. So the reason why it's called the Pirate House is because that's where Blackbeard's men used to come off their ships, and they would actually hang out there. They would have a place to sleep, they'd meet with a few girls, and they actually dug a tunnel 1 block away, underground, over to Dock Street Theater. Dock Street Theater was called Planters back then. So with that being said, Planters Hotel was still kind of it was a hotel, but they had plays there, and it was also a whorehouse. So there's a whole story behind that, which is next. But pirates would go there to work, because pirates had really good knots. So they would make a few bucks at the theater in between bartering with all the locals. But the story that ties in with the working store ties Dock Street Theater to the big church that you see right here. There was a young lady that was past the marrying age of 17. She was 23 and nobody wanted to marry her. She was too old. Even though I told you Eliza was 22 and she got married, she was still considered an old maid when she got married, but she married a politician, so it was okay. But this young lady, her name was Nettie Dickerson. She's seen all the whoring going on down there at Planters Hotel, and she went out and bought a red dress, and she decided she wanted to go work at the whorehouse instead of here at the church. So she goes down there, she gets a job, she's the best little girl in the whole place. She used to think about coming back to the church because she still wasn't happy when she got down there. She realized it wasn't what she thought it was going to be. She still didn't feel wanted, people are just using her. So she used to go out to the second-story balcony and lean on the wrought iron banister and think about coming back. And one night the priest sees her out there and he goes down there to talk to her to come back, and a storm rolls in. Lightning strikes that banister and kills her. Now, they say you can only see her from the knees up. Again, another kneecap story right here. So if we get knees, we need to know, I'm going to go with restore, that it's from Nettie. But anyway, that's crazy. I charged that before I left. Okay, that's why there's a battery pack on the back. You don't want to shut anything down yet. But anyway, so from the knees up. So why can we only see Nettie from the knees up is because when we restored Dock Street Theater, we raised the first floor ceiling. So, let me show you how that example works here in a second. See, I'm always prepared. I got extra batteries on me for everything. But anyway, so the restoration of Dock Street Theater, when we raised the first floor ceiling, she's walking on the second floor that she knows. So that's why you can only see her from the knees up. So again, take that for what it's worth. I don't have any evidence of it. I have gone through it several times trying to find something. I literally have very little evidence of anything actually occurring in there. But again, I've only been, I don't know, with equipment in there maybe 5 times. So again, she just might not have been hanging around during those 5 times. So now that I have your mind on pirates a little bit, we're actually going to go across the street and we're going to look at this last building and then do a full investigation like what we did at the Pinckney site. And then we're going to see what we capture and call it a night. Get you guys back to your car. It's a very weird night. But you can see, like, that is our tallest steeple. You guys are really quiet. It's like pulling teeth with you two. Alright, so I do want to point out that there are 2 different sides to the cemetery. Okay, so the side that we were on, the east side, is for native Charlestonians only. This part's for everybody else. So Calhoun, 17th Vice President, he's buried over here. You can go visit this site during the daytime, which again, you guys won't be here tomorrow. So let's talk about this building over here with the crosses on it. Remember I told you about the big earthquake that we had in 1886? So Charleston decided they were going to start putting up earthquake bolts all over town. Earthquake bolts, the gist behind that is that if a building gets quaked by an earthquake, those earthquake bolts are on a turnbuckle. So you can tighten them and it'll straighten the building right back up again. That's the very first set of earthquake bolts that we put in because that is our oldest government building that we have in South Carolina and on the East Coast. So it's a pretty big building as far as what its importance is. What do you got?
Oh,
Solid.
However, earthquake bolts don't actually work, just so you know. We had another powder magazine that did the exact same thing. It did get attacked, and it actually burned to the ground. But the construction of this building is interesting. Remember I told you about the Charlestown Wall? That's the street that came up. So it literally went right past the powder magazine about half a block and then started going down towards the water, the end of the battery, south. So it's literally tucked into the corner of the wall. It held gunpowder. They wanted to protect it. It's 3 blocks away from the water on purpose. So if a cannon from a ship is going to attack it, those walls are 32 inches thick. Like, that's a lot of wall. So if it were to penetrate it and blow up the gunpowder, there's sand in the roof that's supposed to blow the sand up while everything catches fire below, and then the sand falls to put out the fire. It's a great idea, it just doesn't work. So this whole building, it's a museum now. It's a very small building, but again, it's a museum now. It's never been attacked. It served in 7 different wars, and it took 10 years to build. So from 1703 to 1713 is when it was built. The pirate story is attached to this building because of those years. 1708, right smack in the middle of all of that, a young lady moves here from Ireland. Now this story's got a lot of twists, so I'm going to help you along here. She moves here from Ireland with her dad and his mistress, who happened to be her mother, and they're getting away from his wife. You guys with me so far? Okay, I know that's a lot of weird family tree shit. So this is 1708. She sees this building being finished. She becomes a teenager. Dad's doing business. Mom died, by the way, about a year after they moved here, so she didn't make it very long. But she sees this building and all the pirates are starting to come through town. So the pirates coming through town, she falls in love with one of them. His name was James Bonny. So Anne Cormac falls in love with this guy. Dad doesn't approve. They move to Jamaica, and all of a sudden they're married. They moved to Jamaica because Dad didn't approve. So now Anne Cormac becomes Anne Bonny. You can actually Google the famous female pirate, and this is the name you'll probably get. But when he got down there, she realized that James Bonny was not the kick-ass Captain Jack Sparrow type guy that you see in the movies now. He was a privateer, which basically means he was a spy for the British. He was a coward. This is not what she wanted. So she falls in love again with John Rackham, aka Calico Jack. Much cooler name, much younger guy, very kick-ass. You know, this is what she wants, and he's got his own ship to boot. So she wants to be part of that ship, but females curse pirate ships. So the new boyfriend says, sure, you can join my crew, but you're going to dress like a guy. And she's like, okay, she's already used to that. Dad used to hide her back in Ireland dressed like a boy from his wife to be an apprentice in his attorneyship. So she's already used to it. She don't care. He says, you could be a female in my quarters, but you're going to be a guy on my crew. So she, all is well. Being a female in the quarters, eventually she's going to get pregnant. So what's Calico Jack do? He drops her off in Cuba. Go have the baby, figure it out when you come back. I can't have a pregnant dude on the crew, right? Obviously it'll show. So she has the baby, but comes back dressed like a female and no baby. We have no idea what happened to the kid. So again, a lot of holes in this story. Being dressed like a female, back on the crew, pissed off Jack. So she goes down below deck to start flirting with the pirates that he just captured. So one of those pirates reveals their gender to be a female, dressed like a guy to be part of the pirate crew that Calico Jack just captured. You guys with me on that one?
Yeah.
Okay. So I know a lot of tongue twisters in this one too, for me. So anyway, she convinces this female named Mary Reed to become part of the crew too. She's like, fuck it, let's take it over. 2 ladies on a pirate ship. So she's like, whatever. So she joins the crew. The British fleet, that means many ships, attacked that ship. All the other pirates, the males, were all down below deck, too drunk to come up. It's literally Anne Bonny and Mary Reed fighting off many, many ships. Obviously, their ship gets captured, including Calico Jack. All of those pirates, all the males, were tried and hung pretty quickly back in Jamaica. What happens to Anne Bonny and Mary Reed is that the Chief Justice wants to see them separate because they fought back. But they hurried up and they tucked their hair under their hats, and they don't know that they're female yet.
It's just hide now.
Interesting. Probably because they were being attacked. But they did hide their hair, and they go back in front of the judge a week after all the other pirates were hung. They reveal their gender, and they say, we're female, you can't hang us for piracy. He says, I don't care that you're female, I'm going to try and hang you anyway. But we plead our bellies, which basically means they were both claiming to be pregnant. He says, we'll just delay your hanging. You're still going to hang. But Dad's up here in Charleston, so he is able to bail out Anne Bonny and bring her back home. Keep in mind, she was married to James Bonny that entire time. So what happens from there that we know of is that she got remarried again, had 4 kids, and lived to the age of 84. As far as Mary Read goes, she died from whatever pirates die from in a Jamaican jail. So use your imaginations. That was about a year after she was captured, so that would have been 1721. So here is a place where you can ask whatever you want to. I don't have a set of questions for y'all. It's really whatever you want to know more about. By all means, ask whatever you want to. See what kind of answers you come up with. We are going to stay along the side of the building for now, and then I'll kind of show you the front of it after we're ready to shut the spirit boxes off, just so you know what the front of the building looks like. I don't like to interrupt other tours, which is super weird that we're not seeing any other tours out tonight. Like, it's Wednesday.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like it's a Sunday night or anything. It's weird. Normally I'm running into other groups. It's just very odd. But anyway, let's go see what we can find out up there. I'm going to use my Mel meter. It's normally a dead spot for my device, but we'll see what happens. If something does occur, that's exciting. So let's see what we can come up with.
Shoot coming loose.
Mine is too.
It's just eerily quiet out here tonight.
It is.
Like, even for me.
It is.
Now, I hear people. I see tour groups coming by. These are apartment buildings back here, so I try to stay somewhat quiet, especially in the summertime, because they got their windows open and all that mess. But it's just
Do they know something about tonight that we don't know?
that.
Do they know something about tonight that we don't know?
Here's what I will tell you is that when there is any kind of, I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, rally or any kind of anything going on. We got a lot going on with Jamal Sutherland right now. He was a black man that died in January in a jail. So of course there's a lot going on with that right now. And normally, like, all of my bookings will drop off for that day if there's any kind of rally down.
Just move. Hide now, can't move.
I know, right? It's crazy shit. But there was nothing going on today. That was Monday. Like, the group I had Monday, they called me and canceled. Like, they were going to stay in because they weren't used to, what goes on.
What questions you want to ask?
I don't know, really, to be honest.
Said
Hey, Bonnie,
no.
how did you die?
I don't know. I don't know. What pirates are still here? And Bonnie, what happened to your baby in Cuba?
Did you leave it in Cuba? said confidential, so I don't know.
Well, I guess it is confidential.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. And Bonnie, why did you leave the lady that helped you fight off the other ships?
Yeah, what did she? Rich father could bail you out. Yeah. I would have too. Look at these hoes.
So that group is probably going to come in here. Maybe not. Maybe that's just another random group. I heard somebody loud. I thought it was a tour guide because most guys are louder.
Yeah.
Are you hearing anything or getting anything on there?
Just Cooper.
We're next to the Cooper River, just so you know. So what's funny is, last week I actually had a word come up. No, it would have been 2 weeks ago because I was in Pennsylvania last week. 2 weeks ago I had a word show up here that I thought was relevant to another story, and it just smacked me in the face. I had the word teach come up. And there's a story of a school teacher about 2 blocks from here. And I was like, oh shit, maybe that's related to the school teacher. Maybe I'll tell that story real quick. So I kind of gave that person, it didn't dawn on me. Blackbeard's real name was Edward Teach.
Oh, well, yeah.
It just like, how the hell did I not put 2 and 2 together with that? Because
Yeah.
I'm thinking Charleston stories, not so much just all the pirate stories.
No, it did. It came up when asked about leaving her baby in Cuba. Why did she? Or what happened to the baby?
Mm-hmm.
On the thing, it said confidential.
And again, that's not something I can prove.
Yeah.
The date.
It said ask him. I said Blackbeard, are you here? Ask him.
Blackbeard, Edward, Captain Teach. That just went to 6 and then dropped to 0.
Maybe Blackbeard is here.
You gotta get close to that little metal stick I got here, just like that. Otherwise, I'm not gonna believe you're actually here. Captain Teach.
We're getting like a lot of, words here. You on it?
I turn the temperature back on. When you shut it off, it puts all the battery resource into the EMF so it moves around a little bit more, and that way I can actually see if it's something man-made or not. So I just got this thing like 2 months ago. And we're always adding stuff to the kit, but this thing is more accurate than the other EMF meter I was using. Not to mention it's got that full motion thing on there. Now the other EMF meter usually goes to the kid in the group because it doesn't do anything besides blinky lights.
What do you want me to ask you?
Edward Teach, Ann Bonnie, Mary Reed, John Rackham.
Who is him?
Charles Bain, Cleveland Pirates.
Devil. It says devil.
Say devil?
Yeah. He said, who is him? And that popped in.
Like weird spikes here and
Do
there.
I dare to ask
How what?
To ask the devil?
Could have been a nickname. Because Blackbeard had many nicknames. When you say devil and we're standing next to a pirate story, I think of Blackbeard. It's the first thing I think of.
Yeah. It's your time. Gabriella.
Come on, guys, we need something.
Time for what? What is the time for?
What do you want me to move and hide for? What's wrong? Boat. Said boat.
Say boat? Nice.
Somebody
What was the
hiding in the
name
boat?
of
You
Calico
said
Jack?
honey or something like that. You heard that?
What did it say?
Honey.
What was the name of Calico Jack's boat, his ship? What was that name? What was the name of that ship? And it's weird because I don't normally get into it. It's normally like a dead zone. Like it'll stay like underneath point 2, point 1, point 2.
What
Point.
you getting?
It's going like close to 1, and then every once in a while I get a spike up to 3. So. I'm listening too. Every time like we're standing like this, I'm listening. Just like
Me
y'all.
too.
I'm looking for the name of Calico Jack's ship. Man, you two even got the same shoes?
Mashing all the way down.
It just spiked up to 2 and went right back down to point 2. Like, real quick. Alright, I'm gonna give you guys another minute. Give us some answers. If not, tell us goodnight or goodbye.
Signing bonus for exterior.
Stop.
Who's the devil? Why'd you say that?
Again, that could be just part of the 80%. The thing is meant to be spooky and scary. It's like a digital Ouija board, basically. Alright, kids, I'm gonna call it. This way you guys can ask me any questions you want to from here. Questions, comments, concerns. The wife bought cases, things go in a certain order. Otherwise they don't fit. Again, I know this is what you guys were hoping for. I hope I guess my real hope is that you guys in the future, when you do take ghost tours, that you compare it to this, because this is a lot different than what you're going to get. Obviously, I have the stories memorized, but it's not scripted. Most places are scripted, just so you know, so that way you know what your expectation is in the future. And if you guys do go to other haunted cities, I've been to Savannah before. I'm going to St. Augustine in September to do an investigation down there. I'll probably take a tour or two while I'm down there, but I can always steer you in the right direction of what's good and what's not. So if you guys have questions, obviously I'll be your go-to guide. So I'll take that one. Boast. Oh. We'll keep that word on there for sure. You guys will get this full list back. I don't hide anything. And this was also interesting, the fact that the phone almost died. So again, I don't take the shit off the chargers until I leave the house. So I started up tonight, and it just stays there until I leave again the next night. So the fact that almost died, it's fully charged. So I've had that happen with multiple devices.